Every season is a chance for a new beginning, a new chance to fight for victory, a new chance to fight for top fives, and a new chance to breathe new life into your iRacing career. Tonight, the top drivers in the Bootleg Racing League are all set to go once again to the place where they began last campaign. One of the best short tracks in all of iRacing is back in the spotlight. It's the North Wilkesboro Speedway. Who will take home the checkered flag to begin the campaign? We're about to find out here on the Global SimRacing Channel. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the virtual North Wilkesboro Speedway for the first race of the iRacing 2020 Season 4 calendar year campaign for the Bootleg Racing League's Grand National Series, presented by the Cruise Shop and Motorsports Draw. I'm Justin Prince. Alongside of the booth tonight is Devin Henry. Behind the scenes is our director, Sean Ambrose, and he's using cameras provided by Dougie Beard. If you think back to last season, this is a track which seen many different tricks and knacks to get around this circuit. What's the best way around North Wilkesboro? Let's take a look at your GSRC lap guide to find out that answer.
North Wilkesboro is a legend in the world of NASCAR, the very first NASCAR sanctioned track. Before falling into the clutches of NASCAR's expansion of the mid to late 90s, NASCAR Cup cars made 2 trips here a year. Petty, Allison, Waltrip, Earnhardt, Bonnet, Gordon. The list of winners here reads of NASCAR's legends. North Wilkesboro opened as a dirt track, having the same shape that it does to this day. In the late 50s, it was paved. This is when it became the track we know of today. This 5/8 mile oval is known for keeping a lot of speed on entry into those 14-degree bank corners. For a long part of NASCAR's early years, this was one of the fastest short tracks around, and with it, the unique characteristic, partly a result of lack of funds when they first cut the track. You go downhill on the front stretch and uphill on the back stretch. Also, the 2 corners aren't the same radius, but you might not notice that as much at speed. While North Wilkesboro is mostly known for Cup cars, other NASCAR divisions ran here over the years. Grand National had a few races. The trucks were here for 2 races before the Speedway shut down. Modifieds also made some trips to North Wilkesboro. In the attempted restart in 2010, several late model and super late model series held races here, but it wasn't to be, and the Speedway fell silent. Until now. Thanks to the efforts of Dale Earnhardt Jr. and iRacing, North Wilkesboro breathes life again in this virtual world, as it did in 1987. Now it's time for the Blue Ridge Mountains to hear the thunder again here on GSRC.
That was located GSRC lap guide for North Wilkesboro. Now let's remember my broadcast partner once again in Devin Henry as we get ready to tackle this track again. It's another edition of the Moonshine Challenge, and this time it could be one where we see a different tone compared to the first time the competitors came here.
Absolutely. It's so funny what just about, it's about 12 weeks this season plus about an off week for the Stone River Shootout. It can change a lot of things. We have seen differing strategies from plenty of different drivers at different tracks that we haven't seen before. And a new season and the second ever time for this league at North Wilkesboro will bring some new ideas. Obviously, North Wilkesboro and North Carolina added to iRacing just a few months ago. 14 degrees in the corners, a .63 mile track, so just under 2/3 of a mile. The most difficult part of the track, a downhill front straightaway, then you're going uphill down the back straightaway. There is no protection between you and the grass in the middle of a corner, so it can come out and bite you. There are so many aspects of this track that if you're not paying 100% attention all the way through, man, it will take a toll on you.
It's going to be a tricky track once again. Drivers in the SK Modified race just a little bit ago had several troubles once again off the corner exits with loose track conditions. And oh, by the way, it's even hotter than that race. But before we talk about how things will shape up entering tonight, I remind you of the series' presenting sponsors. First, with the Cruise Shop. They're a team of highly experienced travel agents that have a huge passion for travel. The Cruise Shop specializes in cruises, all-inclusive resorts, escorted tours, Disney, family travel, groups, honeymoons, and weddings. They'll love the opportunity to help you plan your next dream vacation. Call them today at 260-755-6125. And one of the newest sponsors to jump on board for the BRL is the Motorsports Drop. Are you struggling to track of what's happening in all the biggest racing series each week on iRacing? The Motorsports Drop is the place to go for you. Catch up with last week's big winners, the biggest races on this weekend's calendar, or the biggest stories in the world of racing, with quick news bites on Mondays and Fridays. Subscribe to the show on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Spreaker, Google Podcasts, and more. Search Motorsports Drop to find us, or find our full list of providers at linktr.ee-Motorsports Drop. Now, for those who missed the end of last season, well, it was a clinic put on by J.R. Shepard. 360 points is what he finished with 9 victories and a worst finish of second. Justin Morton came home in second spot, meanwhile with Donnie Moore, Bobby Rafferty, and James Moore, the top 5 in the standings. There are some differences, should note, this year in those championship standings. No drop weeks. That is a new addition for this year's championship for this respective season, meaning drivers, if they miss a race, they could feel the cost of it quickly this season. What else will drivers expect, Devin, in the details?
Well, the first driver who's going to get hurt by that no drop weeks this season will be Bobby Rafferty, unfortunately. He will be out. He's racing in the physical world today, not with us in the virtual world. So round number 1 here, going to put him at a detriment, but there's about 16 other drivers here looking to start on a really, really good note here in season number 4 of the Grand National Series. 100-lap races here in the Grand National ARCA cars here. And with that, there are no tire changes. You have to make sure that right front at every single short track can last you all 100 laps and be able to stay on pace, and you only get 1 fast repair. So if you get involved in an incident early, you better watch out. And how we qualify here, there is no qualifying. It comes from the finishing order of the last race, and the top 8 finishers from the last race get inverted. So 8th starts first, so on, so forth. So we get the fast guys coming from about mid-pack.
Indeed, by the way, to keep track of all your favorite teams and drivers, be sure to go to GSRC.TV/timing to keep up with where your favorite drivers are today. That, once again, that's GSRC.TV. Keep where your favorite competitors are today. We're putting up some blistering quick lap times. So the track temp 105 degrees Fahrenheit, 82 degrees the air temp today. Partly cloudy skies, but very windy at 10 degrees to the east at the moment. It's going to be a tricky one this evening with the times in the 17 fives to 19 flats across the board so far.
And this is not helpful with the heat. A little bit of shade coming over right now. Another note is that this is another edition of the Moonshine Challenge. It's just between 2 different series throughout the entire calendar year, Martinsville and North Wilkesboro. J.R. Shepard right now leads those points because, well, he's won every race except for back in April at Martinsville, which was won by Justin Morton. The important thing to note here, though, is just the top 5 get points. First place gets 10 points, second 8, third gets 6. Essentially, the top 5 multiply that by 2, and that's how many points you get. So if you don't finish in the top 5, you don't even get to be scored points. This season, we have had 4 Moonshine Challenge races, excuse me. Only 11 drivers have scored points. So a championship within a championship here, and this is the semifinal round, if you will, of the Moonshine Challenge.
A lot to discuss when it comes to that battle, to say the very least, and a lot of drivers having some struggles, as we've seen. Many of these drivers have competed in past races before, where they either ran full-time or some part-time. For example, Kenny Kibbe in the field tonight won the SK Modified race over J.R. Shepard, while others, like Jeffrey Harden, like the James Lowes of the world, and the Steven Spees, are looking for improvement. And that's one of the main keys, improvement, where a lot of drivers grew a lot last campaign over the summer.
Yeah, and that includes some of these guys like Steven Spees in the 55, currently 3rd on the board in practice. Mostly a dirt car driver. We saw him compete for the Dirt Street Stock Championship last season, fighting against Bobby Rafferty, and he started midway through last year to start getting a little bit of his asphalt feet under him, if you will. And he performed very well, and you saw him progress throughout the year. Had some issues at some tracks, was better at other tracks. We've seen Donnie Moore have really quiet good days. You see a lot of different drivers improving throughout the year, and every year it gets tougher and tougher, but the one constant is the 98 car at the head of the field.
And into the wall goes Speeds, by the way, head on into the fence. Still, well, 4 minutes to go in practice for drivers to get used to the circuit and plan things out for this evening. And of course, the season has the extra caveat of they're going to Nashville for the first time in this series' history as well next month.
Yeah, and that's just another thing about this schedule. It's always 11 races, but rarely is it always at the exact same track. And that's what makes this fun. 2 seasons ago, Stafford was the season opener. Now for the last 2 seasons, it has been North Wilkesboro. And so tracks change, but still the style of racing, good old short track racing, is the same. And the Bootleg Racing League has plenty of different leagues, from street stocks and the SK Modifieds that they had earlier today to dirt racing series that we had yesterday. And some of these drivers compete in 6 to 7 series over the course of just 2 days.
And it can be really tricky to try and plan things about for a racetrack such as this overall. Still, it's James Lowe at the top of the board, Shepard, Spees, Kibbe, and Todd Liston, top 5. Let's take a look at some of the new-looking cars, and this is the newest-looking one in the field. SimRacer Coin jumping on board for Todd Liston this season. They're kind of a cryptocurrency, so to speak, where their plan is to have a marketplace in the future where drivers could use the cryptocurrency to buy setups, paint schemes, etc. Liston representing that brand tonight.
Yeah, I love seeing all the new paint schemes. Personally, when it comes to real-life racing, I'm disappointed when a driver has the same paint scheme from year to year. So on iRacing, I like to mix it up like every 2 seasons. Jeffrey Harden, he's got a new paint scheme on there on the 44. I believe Joe Segala, also another driver here in this series, helped him out with that paint. You're looking at Kurt Smith. He constantly has Mark Martin throwbacks, and he's rocking a new one here. And there you see Joe Segala next to the car. I believe he designed with Jeffrey Harden in the 44 car, so plenty of new liveries out here tonight. I love seeing the fresh paint schemes. I believe Mike Holloway has Dryden on his car tonight. A really cool-looking paint scheme. I love those guys and their paint schemes in the world of Outlaws, so always refreshing to see some new paint schemes out on the track.
Indeed, there's still about a few minutes to go until the drivers take to the grid, and think back to the first race where J.R. Shepard had to take a faster pair early on and charged to the field, took the lead in the final 30 laps. What are your expectations for this race tonight to begin this campaign now that this is their second go-around at this racetrack?
I think that this is a track where you might have some drivers try to charge up through the field early. And the reason why I say that is because of the tire wear here. There's a little bit of banking here at North Wilkesboro. It's not bad. We saw J.R. Shepard really rush through the field in a way when they were here last time at North Wilkesboro. So maybe this is a track where, unlike some of the other short tracks that this series visits, this is a time maybe to kind of burst your way up front early and not get involved in any issues later on in the race, because we know just how tricky this track is, being increase in elevation and even a decrease in elevation, both on the opposing straightaways.
Laps expected to go very quick here today overall, and who do you feel like we may see as a surprise almost compared to how they were last time here, compared to how they grew last campaign?
Well, excuse me for constantly bringing up the dirt driver, but I do think that this might just be a track with dirt racing experience that a guy like Steven Spees might be able to succeed at. Third right now on the practice board, and so I've really liked his speed. He hasn't raced here with the Bootleg Racing League before, so I think that he has a chance tonight to come out and have a really good showing at a really difficult track. But then you look back at last season's race here at North Wilkesboro, the first time that these drivers were here at this track for 100 laps. Obviously, J.R. Shepard with the victory. No Bobby Rafferty tonight, who was on the podium. But you look at a guy like, say, Todd Liston, who finished 7th. Maybe that he'll have a better day. Donnie Moore, who was so consistent throughout the year, he only had an 8th place finish last season. So I'm looking at a guy like Donnie Moore to come out here and just have a really quality race.
Practice now wrapping up. Overall, the top times in the 17.5s as talked about. By the way, that is a near full 10th plus quicker by James Lowe over Shepard. Then Spees, Kibbe, Liston ended up staying in the top 5 there. But We're all set to go to the starting grid. It's the first one of 2020 Season 4 for the Grand National Series for the Bootleg Racing League. With the reverse grid, it's Donnie Moore who will start on the pole tonight, alongside Jeffrey Harden. Brian Dean starts in third this evening. He led a majority of the laps in the SK Modified race this evening. He'll start alongside Michael Redding. Justin Morden flipped sideways just about 30 minutes ago in that modified race. He'll try and keep all 4 tires planted for every single lap from P5 tonight. James Lowe showed flashes of speed that he had in previous seasons at the end of last campaign. He'll start in P6. J.R. Shepard and Kurt Smith round out the top 8 starting positions, with Joe Sagawa in 9th, and Lowell Jewell, the boss man, starts in 10th spot this evening.
Missouri's own Steven Spees will start this race in 11th. Outside of him, in 12th place will be Todd Liston. The principal, Chris Wolfson, lines up in 13th place. Bruce Pearson will start in 14th. Kenny Kibbe, welcome on back to the Grand National Series, starting inside of row number 8. Ruben LT starts 16th. And rounding out your field, the Oklahoman Mike Holloway, your 17-car field here at North Wilkesboro.
Down to just 16 cars, should note. A DNS for Brian Dean did take part in practice and ran 18 flats. He has elected not to start tonight's race, it appears, this evening. Final few moments before the first green flag of the season, your keys to victory in this race tonight.
The key tonight is to watch out for the drivers on the right side of the car. It's so easy to bang doors here at North Wilkesboro, and you can kind of get a little bit of tunnel vision in the middle of the corners and not be looking out for the guys around you. Also, as much as I said, hey, attack early on, don't storm the corners. These corner entrances will absolutely kill you when you're on an incline or decline, and they will whip that right rear right around, and you need a fast repair.
Last season, this race was won by the eventual full series champion, the champion of the Street Stars, the Modifieds, and the Grand National Series in J.R. Shepard, who will win tonight's race. We're about to find out. Green flag is out. We're underway from North Wilkesboro.
Caught Harden sleeping on that outside lane, loses 2 positions, and J.R. Shepard has already moved into P4, the entire outside lane. Detrimental start for them as they move back a handful of positions each.
Few times drivers were able to get the bottom line to work for some of the passes compared to the last time, where it was a bit of a struggle at times. But Morden is off to a great start, while J.R. Shepard, well, he's in the midst of a fight side by side for position as the top line allows drivers the ability to still pinch. And in some of the faster cars like this is more of the preferential line. We've seen that times last season, partly why you've seen that squeeze work there.
And interestingly enough, there are 4 cars on the outside lane, but only 1 by choice. Jeffrey Harden trying to utilize the outside lane right now. I don't think he's really losing J.R. Shepard or the cars behind him or gaining in front of him, but that could potentially be a tire saver if you're not putting as much wheel input into the car. So, hey, you never know. This is a game of strategy still. 100 laps, no tire changes. It can mean a lot to save that right front.
We've seen that a lot in the last race. Harden really backing up the corner, and this is holding up Michael Redding. Still the battle for the lead, separated by just 0.2 of a second. These drivers have ran away by about a second or so.
And Justin Moore just continues to reel on in Donnie Moore, getting closer and closer to the rear bumper of that 26 machine. And the yellow flag has already come out.
Joe Sagawa around to the front straightaway for our first caution of the season. Comes out on lap number 6, and this was a trouble spot last season. Turn 4 exit. You could really get loose if you hit the gas too hard. Bye-bye.
In the front straightaway, you can almost see it just looking at the camera. It does go downhill, so you're actually on a hill. You kind of rise up and you dip down on corner exit. And that's a big reason why corner exit out of 4 is so tricky, because the car gets lighter for a split second depending on when you hit that gas. And even just a few tenths of a second difference can mean a lot coming off the corner there. And I mean, this track, when iRacing first released this, which is just a work of art in my opinion, everyone knew how difficult it would be. And we saw even the pros, both in the Coca-Cola series and the real life pros in the Invitational series, struggle at North Wilkesboro.
Yeah, this is a not so easy track compared to some of the other ones where it may be a bit more smoother or retrofitted to specific flatter gradings. There's a reason there's so much character at this type of a racetrack, and keep in mind there's now a short track movement in real life too that's really kicked off with Auto Club Speedway turning into a short track in the near future.
And that's just wild to me, converting a 2-mile multi-lane track into a half-mile. But in a way, yeah, that's actually NASCAR listening to the fans, because short track racing has kind of resurged here in America, where being able to have a little bit of bumping and banging at high speeds has really caught the attention of a lot of racing fans who previously were all about speed, until these cars kind of get speeded out. Okay, what's next? Well, go back to grassroots racing. Back to the good old days of bumping and banging, bumping and running, and just good old hard racing.
100% on that one, and this is the type of track that brings in that hard racing. When you think about to the 1990s especially, lots of bumping and banging, lots of potential for tight passes. This is a track that is a manhandle to try and work around. As we get the one-to-go signal, we've already seen that with some of the drivers fighting hard for position, and some of them feeling more confident on the brakes compared to last season. Others still backing up the corners.
Absolutely, and this restart here going to be vital. We saw multiple drivers have issues on the green, falling asleep. You got to get a good jump here on your restarts.
Jeffrey Harden's now on the bottom side. He was holding up drivers in that fight for third on back. Donnie Moore, though, off and away for a green flag, and this time Harden bogs down in the gears. Shepard boxed in, running, trying to get the squeeze as the fight for the lead is on.
The top two just blew everyone else away. The master plumber for New Hampshire trying to make that inside work, but Justin Morton has too much speed on the outside. New leader, the 9 car, leads this lap and leads the way here at North Wilkesboro.
That's why some drivers with this type of car love the top line. More momentum off the corner, be able to run off and launch away. Looking like different preferences as well in the different lines. At least 2-3 different lines can work here at this track, as we've already seen in the past.
And J.R. Shepard, not a good restart for him. We already saw how he got boxed in. He has fallen back to the 6th position, lost a few spots on that restart. Michael Redding, on the other hand, though, moving up into the 3rd position. He's trying to hunt back down your leaders of Justin Morton and Donnie Moore.
Now, he had a solid race here, if I think back correctly, last season, as well as some of the other races. It was just tire management in his regard. But the king of that last year was your champion in J.R. Shepard, who's won a vast majority of the races in the history of this series.
He is the absolute master of conserving tires and knowing when to use them in that Cruise Shop number 98. He's got some new fresh paint on that as well, but the Cruise Shop logo stays the same. Now trying to use that outside lane against James Lowe. Lowe trying to pass Harden. And at the end of last season, Justin, we really saw James Lowe, who is typically a fierce competitor in this series, kind of fell off in the middle of the year and really found his momentum again at the tail end of last year. Now moving into the 4th spot, trying to get another good finish to open up this season. Did not get on the podium last season here, hoping to change that tonight.
This was still one of his better finishes of the campaign, if you think back, so might be a solid night. Still very early on, as Shepard, by the way, is fighting with Harden yet again. By the way, that look in the 98 machine is a throwback and sort of look that matches his modified that he runs earlier on in the evenings. He'll watch as one car, that's Kurt Smith, is in the fence. Caution is out.
Boy, that one looks a little wild. Kurt Smith taking the tow straight to pit road. Take a look on our GSRC replay machine. Kurt Smith right behind J.R. Shepard, having himself a pretty good run. And again, on corner exit off of 4. Boy, I don't think he made contact with Harden there, but major contact on the inside. That might have been netcode, or it might have just been he was a little bit out of control and you just couldn't tell.
Take a listen. Yeah, just ended up hooking it. Just got almost caught with the suspension in the tires where it just hooked left.
Yeah, just lost it. You saw him starting to kind of bring that wheel back right and just didn't correct enough. Sometimes with these rear tires in the ARCA car, they'll just keep spinning and spinning and spinning until you know for a fact that you have that car straight again. The rear end continues to kick out, and almost there you could see it was basically slow motion until the second that it just snapped. So that's just part of this car specifically, where you can kind of slide it for a while.
Now joining us in the broadcast booth as we reach the 80 laps to go mark for the first race of the season is from Race Control. It's John Hine. John, thank you for taking the time to speak with us. How are things going for the first race night of the evening for the pavement ovals from Race Control perspective?
Well, so far it's been a pretty good night. This tough, difficult track coming out of 4 has been a trouble spot all night, both in the street stocks and the modifieds, and it's proven to be so here in the Grand National cars. But it's a racy track. You've got 2 lanes out there that you can utilize, so I do expect this to be a barn burner tonight.
Absolutely. That was kind of what we seen even in the modified race. In terms of the season, there's a lot to look forward to. What are some of the things fans should look forward to, in your opinion, for BRL competition 2020 season 4?
Well, I think the level of competition continues to get better. We've got a couple new guys in. I know there are a couple new guys also working their way up through the ranks. I think that we're not going to have drop weeks this year. So when you look at the points, they're going to be updated. You're going to know what you want. No drop weeks. So it's going to be straight up racing this season. I think it's going to be exciting and make a tight point battle.
Who are some of the drivers you feel really improved the most from watching up in Race Control from last season, who are now competing this season on the track tonight?
I think Steven Spies, he's come from a dirt background. I think he's continued to improve. Kenny Kibbe's back. He's much improved from what I've seen from the last time he ran with us. I think those are 2 guys that you probably want to watch this season.
Back to Green Flag Racing with a good launch from Justin Morton by 2 car lengths. But as this fighting continues on the racetrack off this restart, what are some of the things as Race Control you watch on and watch for with this season such as this, especially knowing this is also a race for the Moonshine Challenge tonight?
Yeah, I am just trying to give them a heads up. There's a couple blind spots as you come out of the corner. If I see an accident, I'll let them know that, hey, you got a wreck in front of you, especially when it gets to be a lap traffic and stuff like that. But other than that, I'm pretty hands-off and just kind of enjoying the races. I'm sitting here on top of up here where the film crew is, all the way on the top of the press box. So I got the best seat in the house.
Thank you very much for the time.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Once again, that's John Hyde from Race Control as we are under Green Flag Racing. We look back to Kenny Kibbe. He just had a nightmarish lap where he nearly spun it 30 times in the span of 2 corners.
Yeah, dropping him back to the 10th position. He was having a pretty good run halfway through the field, and you have to wonder, sliding the car around that many times, how detrimental that can be to those rear tires. You need to save those up and be able to hold on to them as Kibbe loses another spot there to Todd Liston. Back up front, unfortunately for the rest of the field, J.R. Shepard has moved into the 3rd position already, and Michael Redding also made a couple of good moves on that restart to put him into P2, but they're both still chasing Justin Morton.
Johnny Moore already cycled back to 4th. Lowe is again back to 5th. Spies is again in this grouping. The fastest car on the track, by the way, last time by was Harden. This time it's Altice who avoids trouble. It's Liston, Sagawa, and a couple others.
Major damage there for the number 87 of Todd Liston. Let's take a look back here on our replay. Whoa, that started a little bit early on. Woo! Yeah, that started way earlier than we expected.
That was on turn 4 exit where it seemed was a nightmare. Lowell Jewell actually bobbled out the corner into Liston. Kibbe got the worst of it there. Wolfson just misses, and then, well, the 81 has nowhere to go.
Nowhere to go. Let's take a look here on board with Chris Wolfson, the principal. I mean, you just see how quickly this happens. How about that? Holding on to the brake. Great wreck avoidance right there. That's A+. A+ right there for the middle school principal out of Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania there. That was a great move, but you see just how quickly that happened. And actually what Lowell Jewell did, that was exactly what we saw happen to Kurt Smith just about a caution ago.
Kurt Smith, by the way, elected not to use his fast repair and DNF'd out of the race. Liston and Sagawa, though, have elected to use their fast repairs under this caution flag from that situation. So that's one of the main positives when it comes to having a fast repair in the bank is if anything was to happen, say the track becomes blocked or you have a car end up spinning around on the track and you have nowhere to go, you have that safety option. You don't want to rely upon it, though. Otherwise, you're going to have to cut through the field like Shepard had to do when he broke his suspension.
Or even worse, we saw just how much that wreck right there went through about half the field. So when you're trying to come back up through the field and on lap number 30, you already have your fast repair used, it just takes another small incident like that. I think the contact there with Kenny Kibbe, that looked like netcode to me. So basically, that's just bad luck. So if through some bad luck, you have to use a fast repair 30 laps in, and then 30 laps later, you're just caught up in bad luck trying to get up through the field, well, your day is done at lap 60.
Well, this is the new damage model again with this respective car. It's been since the past couple seasons or so. It doesn't mean the cars are indestructible, though. They can get away with some damage, but if you significantly bash them in, it's going to not be the most positive thing as we're getting ready for the green again. Just morning in the race lead, Michael Redding in second, J.R. Shepard, Donnie Moore, your top 4, Lowe and Speeds, your top 6. Off and away goes Morning. We're back underway.
Great jump from the 9, and here comes the 98 cruise shot machine of J.R. Shepard trying to get to the inside of Michael Redding for P2. Door-to-door here going into turn number 3. Redding shuts the door, though, hops to the inside, and now is battling for the lead.
What a crossover by Redding. Can't get it to stick, though, off of turn 4. Can he send it hard into turn 1? No. Flips the apron, nearing way too low. Here comes Shepard.
Michael Redding literally threw every single thing he could to try to get up into the lead. Gets a little loose on the bottom of the track. He is flirting dangerously with that grass down there. J.R. Shepard with the momentum on corner exit takes over second and has a chance to clear coming off of turn number 2.
And Redding really needs to find a hole, and Moore just tapped the door, slammed hard into his nose nearly. James Lowe now trying to attack the 26 as a result. Morton, meanwhile, waving goodbye. He still has the fastest lap of the race.
Michael Redding, Mr. Evil Knievel, aggressive early on here at North Wilkesboro. 4th position changing hands as James Lowe now finds his way around Donnie Moore. Moore trying to use that outside lane. He can get some momentum on exit, but in the center of the corner, you just lose a lot of pace and a lot of ground. Now under attack from Steven Spees for the 5th position now. Donnie Moore starting to fall like a rock, getting stuck on that outside.
Some of the trouble spots. He started off strong at times, Devin, last season, but then migrated, it seemed, to the mid-pack. It's almost like that migration period already starting to kick in as we're 63 laps in. Chris Wolfson with trouble down the front straight away. No caution flag, though, for the 17.
Morton still gapping J.R. Shepard. We saw a number of drivers make pretty large gaps on the field last season, and it did not pay off because while they had the pace early, the right front burned away. Now Justin Morton is a very experienced driver and a former winner, one of only 4 different drivers to win in this series. So he knows exactly what he is doing, but you always have to consider that J.R. Shepard might know a little bit more about tire conservation. Meanwhile, I don't think Michael Redding cares. He slid all 4 tires there through 3 and 4. He's trying everything that he can. Michael Redding is really trying to blitz this track here early on.
Well, this is not looking pretty now, and this is one of the scary things when it comes to driving this track. We've mentioned the different elevation changes. Imagine trying to handle that with the right rear tire that feels like it's falling off. That's what happens if you overcook the tire after 40 laps. Guess what? We're about 40 laps in.
And Redding is starting to feel that pressure, I think, from the right rear. It looks like the rear end is just lying out a little bit every single corner. James Lowe being very patient behind him, wanting to take away that 3rd position. You do have to be careful, though. It just takes one little bit of looseness from the car in front of you to have a huge checkup, and you don't want to make contact. Here comes Lowe now to the inside.
Lowe trying to take away this spot, getting held up a touch as the lead is separated to just 3 tenths between Shepard and Morton in front. The thing that's going to make this difficult, though, is Redding has the preferred line to squeeze for the better momentum, and he's using all that squeeze he can down the corners.
James Lowe, the Virginia contractor, In that orange number 99, we saw him struggle in the middle part of last season after a 4th place finish at North Wilkesboro to open last season, trying to get onto the podium, still battling door to door. And the last thing that you want to be doing in the middle of the race is fighting door to door, because you just continue to wear out that right front tire.
And he's really shoving it up the track. Is that enough for Low to clear? Yes, indeed it is. Just barely. And I think Redding nearly took his wheels off the track of the back bumper, just about there with that tight clear.
Michael Redding, Mr. Evil Knievel. A little bit aggressive here early on. Almost to halfway, completing lap number 45 this time. Justin Morton still your leader, having about a third of a second gap between him and J.R. Shepard. And now James Lowe a little bit further behind that. Looking further back, man, Donnie Moore had a huge issue. He is back in the 12th position now.
Got really loose off turn 4 last time by and really had to slow off the gas. This has been a constant all race, but the next time around had to lift hard off the gas after basically having a near situation what we've seen with Kurt Smith, what Chris Wolfson had off the restart, and a couple others tonight.
Well, let's listen to his throttle here, because this is always very interesting. Wow. Dirt tracking it. Obviously, you don't want to go that slow, but still, that was an incredible save.
Yeah, he did the smart thing, was able to get off the throttle and balance it out to where he didn't snap the car. Now he's back in 12th, though, as a result. Michael Redding's been freight trained. Now it's a P9 as we've shown that. He lost the bottom, and everyone is passing him. In fact, Redding's in the fence. Michael Redding into the wall in the 30.
And he is dropping like a rock, and you know it's bad when the guy who spun out earlier is starting to pass you, and major damage to that right side now, and that's probably going to be enough to be detrimental to him. He might have to take a fast repair under green. So you already see him here. I think it was just before this, because those drivers start to railroad him. Watch here, coming down the straightaway, another guy getting loose on the front straight. He thinks he has it caught, and that elevation change going into the corner catches you, and I think a little bit of tires probably helped out too.
Right there. Hard into the fence. Everyone able to dodge him, and in turn, the damage is now built up, but the new leader is J.R. Shepard up the head of the field. Made the pass last time by underneath Justin Morton, and now Redding is in the pit lane because of the damage.
And J.R. Shepard, that was almost flawless. He only took about half a track to be able to make this move. Morton really kind of gave him the high side here. We'll take a quick look back. I'm really intrigued. Justin Morton didn't really fight this at all. So take a look back here at your replay. Justin Morton, your leader in the 9. The 98 is J.R. Shepard. And Morton just let him have the inside. And a really great run here from the 98. Gets on the gas early, holds onto it straight. Now Justin Morton's just along for the ride.
Yeah, it looked like he just backed off a touch. He tried to squeeze, yes, right about here, but the next time by with that bit of a bobble, wonder if that he thought, you know what? Don't want to cook the tires, just want to get the points.
Still within 3/10 here. Justin Morton is on J.R. Shepard. James Lowe still untouched in the 3rd position as well. This battle might not be over, but of course we know that 98 car, just like LeBron James, he knows a way to flip a switch. It's magic. You don't think he's got it, and just somehow, some way, once he gets that lead, he'll disappear.
Speaking of flipping a switch, Kenny Kibbe has flipped one. He's been known across the iRacing service, not just as a Twitch streamer, but as well as someone who ends up running a lot of short track races, whether it's on dirt or on pavement. He's up to 5th. It's a +10 after being involved in one of the early caution flags.
Maybe he was a part of the Firecracker 200 put on by E-Racer. See him all across. Of course, a Twitch streamer as well. He was outside the top 10. Remember, we were just talking about that not too long ago, and now finding himself in the top 5. And now 4 of the drivers in the top 5 actually also double in the Dirt Street Stock Series as well. So a lot of the drivers currently in the top 5 are the guys who run about 6 series per weekend with Bootleg.
Keep in mind, he ran some SK Modified races last season, got a decent amount of podium and top 5 finishes. Now, looking to bring that experience over to the Grand National Series now, because it is an invitational-only series where you do have to work your way up to the ranks. It's not just like, okay, you run pro, say, in another series. You have to prove that you can drive the cars in this respective organization's competitive series.
Absolutely, and he is definitely a seasoned driver, if you will. A champion in Bootleg in the Street Stock Series, a champion in Bootleg in the Dirt Street Stock Series, winning earlier today in the SK Modifieds, and now running top 5 in the Grand National ARCA machines.
Top 3, meanwhile, is about to reach lap traffic for the first time. Chris Wolfson's just up the road for these machines. They're all separated by just 0.6. Their times near identical. About 1/10 of a second or so separated by each of them.
They are exactly 0.3 away from one another, and they're also using different lines. They're not exactly similar, not following in the tire tracks of one another. 40 laps to go here, now catching up to lap traffic. That's Chris Wolfson in front of them. This might mix things up a bit.
Lap traffic has been cordial in this series' history. Out of the way goes Chris Wolfson, I should rather say, up the racetrack. Here's the downside. Right in the wrong spot for Justin Morton. He's going to lose time from this as the 17 straight to the wall trying to let everyone go.
Yeah, Wolfson did everything that he could to not get in these guys' way, and as a lap car, you just have to hold your line, be as predictable as possible, especially out of short track, because there's not a lot of ways to get out of the way. If you are in someone's way on corner exit, they have to let off. If you're in someone's way when they happen to get to corner entry, they have to brake sooner, so there's really no good time to catch a lap car unless you pass them in the middle of the corner.
All of a sudden, Morton's tires look like they're going off. There's a little bit of a drift there. Wonder if Morton's starting to lean on that right rear. Remember, he had at Thompson specifically, the tires completely fall off a cliff.
Absolutely, and now James Lowe again having a little bit of patience on board here with Justin Morton in P2. Watch the steering wheel. He is working it right now inside the cockpit.
I think something when reaching that lap car may have just triggered a little bit too much heat in the tires maybe, or started that next layer of onion peeling, so to speak, on the tires. James Lowe gives him the spot.
Low on the inside, you see that right front tire. Morton probably going to let him go a little bit here because, goodness gracious, it looks like he's driving a dirt street stock right now with how often he's turning that wheel to the right. Oh man, I was worried he was going to be really loose there because of how low he exited. Morton now entering higher, a little bit softer on the throttle, so kind of taking a break here, slowing things down. Meanwhile, J.R. Shepard's lead has extended to 1 second and starting to run away now, just like we see him do very, very often.
Where do we see that script before? Am I right? About a few 100ths quicker last time by, was 1/10 of a second quicker during the pass. Gap is 1.35 seconds. This was around the time where Shepard had taken the lead when he had to get the fast repairs done, mind you, at the beginning of last season. Should note that Spees and Kibbe are reeling in that grouping for second as well, and fairly decent clip for them. They are quicker than the cars in front by about 1/10.
Yeah, this kind of mid, I don't even want to say mid-pack, but a few different groups of cars on different tire strategies, if you will, starting to work out. Battle for 7th here, Mike Holloway in the white 2 car, Ruben Altice in the black 11, door-to-door here. Altice trying to take away that 7th position.
Altice with a more darker color this season as Holloway in his blue and white machine trying to late brake to get clear. Altice really charging that apex though to try and push Holloway up the track as they go back and forth here. This is about 6 seconds back of the race lead.
They're sticking door to door, battling for this position. Obviously, every point matters. Then you have, of course, the shootout points, the Moonshine Challenge points. That's only for the top 5, so a few of these drivers really want to hop into that top 5 as Altice completes that pass. Kenny Kibbe, who hasn't ran very many Grand National Series races this year for the Moonshine Challenge, might be one of just 12 cars to have points in the Moonshine Challenge if he's able to hold on to a top 5 with under 30 to go now.
J.R. Shepard has that lead, by the way, with just about all of those races, as talked about in the pre-race, won by him, except for that Martinsville win for Justin Morton. Morton, in turn, is second in the standings by 14 points back. Bobby Rafferty did not start tonight, was another 12 points back. Donnie Moore, Todd Liston, Brian Dean, James Lowe were tied for 4th with 8 points. Holloway had 6. Robbie Robinson 4. Janowski and Speed with 2 apiece. So that grouping of drivers likely going to expand by 1 if this sticks the way it is right now. Kibbe is still the fastest car on the track still, by the way, in the 5th position right now, and slowly has reeled in the red box for Spees and Company in front of him.
And that's impressive by Kenny Kibbe. We saw him back in 11th place. He's moved up past at least 6 cars, able to conserve those tires enough to continue catching the cars in front of him. I'd be curious if there were a caution, if he could still keep pace with some of these drivers in front of him, as he has completely gapped everyone behind him.
Warren's also stabilized. He is still in the same realm. In fact, a couple hundreds quicker here and there than Speeds. But the tough part of this track, once you get the really worn tires, is trying to complete the pass. We talked about the differences in how you attack the track with the tires. Eventually, though, you're going to have to attack the cars around you without getting held up.
And that's where a driver like me, with the lack of experience going 100 laps on the same set of tires, that's where experience really comes in, because it's almost a different driving philosophy, not just on your own, but especially when you're driving against someone else. When you're trying to make a pass, the tires are completely different, and in turn, the car acts completely differently. You need to know how to make a pass, not just on fresh tires, but when you're 70 laps in. How will my tires react when I'm trying to brake earlier to get to the inside of someone, or have to lift sooner to not wash up the track on exit? So it comes down to experience on these old tires, what it takes to be able to continue gaining spots in a series like this as we look at the battle here for 9th.
Keep in mind, this is all trying to get up to Mike Holloway. If this sticks the way it is, Holloway, if he starts, would be the pole sitter next round. He's up 9 positions from his starting spot, trying to hold on in front of Pearson and Jewell for that respective spot for the invert. Downside, Pearson and Jewell were both a tenth quicker last time.
And that schedule for this year, they will race next week, and it'll be at Five Flag Speedway, a really tough track to pass out, a very, very short track, if you will. So starting towards the front will be very helpful. And now Justin Morton is also starting to go under fire. Steven Spies and Kenny Kibbe are caught up to the rear end of the 9.
That car had started falling off a decent bit, had calmed down its loose conditions, and now it's off the cliff again. Morton nearly to the wall. Bye-bye, 3rd and 4th.
And Kibbe wants a twofer here, trying to get to that right rear corner panel. Steven Spies using the outside lane, trying to find a rubber cushion if he can, but pushes up on exit, loses a little bit of time. Kenny Kibbe wants to jump on the podium here in his return to the Grand National Series.
Looking really good on corner exit here. This is about 3 seconds back of the race lead. Kibbe trying to back up the corners. The different line he's been taking, though, he's been almost backing up the braking point, but dragging it where he's able to hit the gas hard, actually slap the wall hard there.
Rubbin's racing, and you're going to rub the wall on a short track like this plenty of times. Did not kill any momentum, still running his own race, didn't phase him at all. And you see just how far that 55 gets away from him on corner entry and toes right back into the center of the corner. A completely different driving philosophy as they come up on a lap car.
That is Todd Liston in the 87 for 13th position. Kibbe just about got to the back end of the 55. Just having to wait for that traffic at the moment to move out of the way. Will Kibbe try and move around Spies in the next couple laps? We'll have to see. 16 to go as Liston had to slam the brakes to avoid hitting the lead cars.
Kibbe looks like he's at a plate track or something. Slowing down on corner entry, making a gap, and then getting right back up to the rear bumper before corner exit. He could be bump drafting with Steven Spies down the straightaway if he really felt like it. He has some tire left over, and this is probably the point in the race where you don't think another caution is going to come out. J.R. Shepard and James Lowe a little bit far away. Do you use up all your tire and try to hop onto this podium here at North Wilkesboro?
Be a good strong start for the point standings, to say the very least. James Lowe is also slowly getting reeled in, by the way, in all of this. He actually lost a few tenths last time, just lost another 3 tenths. So this is now a 3-car scrap for 2nd spot.
13 to go, this time by the stripe. J.R. Shepard's lead is now nearly 3 seconds over James Lowe in that orange number 99. It's a 3-way battle here for the 2nd position. All 3 drivers have a chance here to hop into 2nd. James Lowe in 2nd, Steven Spies 3rd, Kenny Kibbe in 4th.
And Spies with a better launch now to try to attack James Lowe. Hard to the bottom side. Didn't quite commit to it. He had the momentum to try it. He has it on exit, though.
Taking a look at the rear end of this Dodge Charger here for the number 99 of James Lowe. Completely different corner exits. Lots of momentum here. Steven Spies gets to the inside. side by side into turn number 3. Enough momentum though for the 99. Lowe able to fight back, but the 55 has a nose on him. It's a new person in P2, but he's got to complete the pass. Steven Spees can't get in front of him here off of turn 2.
And Kibbe's looking to take advantage. Lowe gets loose. Here comes Kibbe. 10 to go. And Kibbe looks for his first podium of the season. Lowe gives him the space. Move Kenny Kibbe up 12 positions from his starting spot.
Kibbe's mouth is salivating right now. He sees P2 right in front of him. He's been keeping pace the entire time. He's almost ran over the rear bumper of the 55. He knows that there is a chance that he can pick up P2. Being really patient though right now. You don't want to make a mistake this late in the race. Just 9 laps to go.
The battle for 8th has heated up big time. One, because Morton's dropping it back to these cars. As well, Hardin's broken away from them. But as well, Kirsten has closed back up to hallway again. Any of these 4 cars here could be your pole sitter come next week.
Yeah, this is the battle for the pole. It might not feel like a lot right now as it's just 8th place, but this is the difference between starting next week in 1st and starting in 9th. Low Jewel, the boss man, using the outside here, trying to get around Bruce Pearson. Only one of these 4 drivers will start on the pole next week. They're going to duke it out here.
Good corner and back straightaway has the squish now on Pearson. Move the 96 back to 10th spot. 7 to go for these cars. Now the 81 of Sagawa trying to move forward as now it's down to Hallway and Jewel for the fight for 8th.
The Gala just a little bit too far up the track, getting out of that rubber and lost momentum and now falls back pretty far behind Bruce Pearson. Jewel reeling in just a little bit here on the rear end of that 2 machine. Using a little bit of a higher line here, looking to find some momentum on corner exit. These 4 are all still bunched together, fighting for that 8th spot, which will be the pole next week.
High five from the flag stand, this time by as Todd Liston. Remember him? Is now a factor potentially in all this as Jewel nearly hits him. Jewel this time the corner. Now it's near 3 wide.
Especially on old tires, everyone has different braking zones, and that's the case there where Jules and Holloway's were completely different, and that could have been massively horrendous for both drivers and even the drivers behind them as well. And Liston is definitely going to be a factor here as everyone has to move to the inside.
Liston trying to get as high as he can, nearly snaps at us. Jewel just avoids him. 3 to go this time for the battle for the pole position next week. Could go any direction as Jewel has the better launch again up high into the fence.
Ooh, and bounces off. He had momentum, lost it all though when he had to shake it out a little bit. Holloway will gain a little bit of a gap. Great job though by Jewel on corner exit. Closes it right back up. Wanted to peek to the inside but did not have enough.
2 to go this time. The battle for 2nd is also heating up. White flag this time by. Next flag ends the race as Kibbe gets to the outside of the 55. Kenny Kibbe looking to take away the spot on the last lap.
He got to that right rear quarter panel. Speeds in the 55, Kibbe in the 14, battling it out for 2nd place here in this race.
Off the final corners at the end of the Speedway, J.R. Shepard sees the checkered flag. Once again, the 98 will come away with the victory. He brings the crew shop forward to victory lane. Well, Kibbe behind him at the stripe. He just got it.
Wow, really? That was way too close to call. I had no idea. What does timing and scoring say on this?
And Jewel just about got the spot. Hold on. Jewel got it. Little Jewel got it by a couple 100s as he wrecks down the back straightaway for the pole.
I completely forgot about that. Holy cow.
First of all, let's take a look at the battle for 2nd spot on your first replay here. This came down to the final corner. This is why you try and take away the high line on Apex.
They're coming out here on the outside. A great job by Kibbe. Really put the power down on exit to get to that right rear corner panel. That's the only reason why Kibbe had a chance here. White flag that time by. A huge arc here for Kenny Kibbe. And coming down the back straightaway, this is where he sets it up best, Justin.
This is going to show it really well here. He's been backing up the corner to charge it right there. That little extra burst for this part of the track and speed's getting loose just enough to get himself to 2nd.
18/100ths of a second, and here's the finish for 8th. Lowell Jewell on the very last corner completes the pass and just barely beats Mike Holloway to the finish. Lowell Jewell unofficially will be your pole sitter for next week because of that pass. What a finish. Just a reminder, guys, that the race for the lead isn't the only race always going on. So many great races there at the end of this race here at North Wilkesboro.
And every point matters this season with no drops, right? We'll take a quick break. We'll be back in just a moment. You're watching the Global SimRacing Channel from the virtual North Wilkesboro Speedway. Welcome back to the Global SimRacing Channel's coverage of the BRL's Grand National Series. What was a barn burner to start off 2020, Season 4 of its history. Justin Prince alongside Devin Henry, Sean Ambrose, as we take a look at your unofficial race results. J.R. Shepard, yet again, with the race victory, but every battle after that was absolutely crazy today. Kenny Kibbe in a drag race beats Steven Spies for the second spot. James Lowe finishes in 4th after running in 2nd for a good 20 laps before he fell off. Justin Morton, his right rear tire just about fell off and still held on to 5th by about a second, but Jeffrey Harden came home in 6th. Ruben Altiste held on the 7th spot with Lowell Jewell taking away the pole position. In 8th spot with Mike Holloway and Joe Segawa rounding out your top 10.
Bruce Pearson has to settle for an 11th place. After all that crazy battling, Donnie Moore, his early complete him with issues at the end of the 12th finish for him. And then some guys with just fortunate days. Todd Liston in 13th, Michael Redding 14th, Chris Wilson 2 laps down in 15th, and Kurt Smith with that early wreck finishing off the night in 16th, and Brian Dean rounding out the field here tonight at North Wilkesboro. And and John Hine called it from the beginning, it certainly was a barn burner.
Indeed, in the end, is J.R. Shepard with the victory. Lots of happy drivers likely tonight would bring in our second place finisher first of all in one of his first Grand National starts in a while. Kenny Kibbe, 13 spots, was involved in early caution, had to save his car 3 times in 1 lap at one point, and still comes away in P2 as one of the fastest cars to the end of the race. Kenny, how does it feel to come away with the second step of the podium tonight?
Great. I mean, I was just trying to get into that top 8. That was kind of my goal at the beginning. I knew I was going to have to start in the back because I haven't been in here for a little while. But I was trying to manage my tires and thought we were doing okay. And then had, like you said, had some problems there. And but once we had a long green flag run, that was going to play into my strength. So the longer we were going to stay green, I was going to just try to pick them off one by one. And some guys kind of fell off at the end, and we just kind of ended up falling into second.
You're making a different line work than anyone else, where you were backing up the corner and it seemed just able to stick the throttle much earlier than anyone else, especially in 3 and 4. How difficult is it to try and get that type of method to work, because you're the only one executing that method tonight, it seemed?
Yeah, so that was part of my tire conservation, was letting off the throttle really early and just kind of floating the car in, not using much brake. I was letting off around the start-finish line on the front stretch. I had to make sure I wasn't going to get run over from the back, because most guys weren't doing it that way. Not their fault or anything if they did hit me, but just me trying something different. But it allows me to not really work as hard on corner entry, and the bottom in 3 and 4 was the place to be unless you were making a pass. And 1 and 2, I don't know if I necessarily figured 1 and 2 out yet. I wanted to see how JR was running that line in 1 and 2, but yeah, just that's how I try to run these cars, is really float it into the entry and get back on the throttle early and straight and completely. And that usually you win races by having a good corner, middle corner, and corner exit. So that's what I try to do.
Now, a strong start to the campaign, but the next race, Five Flags. Your thoughts going there for this series?
To be honest with you, it's my favorite racetrack on the schedule. Haven't run in the Grand National cars there in a long time, or that I can remember. But I've had good success there in other cars. So I'll be looking forward to that one. And now that I'll start in the top 8, won't have quite as many cars to have to go through.
Anyone you want to thank for your run tonight in that orange and black machine?
Yeah, just everybody at the Bootleg Racing League for putting this on. You know, I really miss running with these guys every week. This league's a lot of fun. Cruise Shop for sponsoring Saturday nights, and GSRC for you guys with their broadcasts. And I like to give a shout out to Steven there at the end. He gave me a really good battle at the end, and it was a clean fight, and hopefully made for some good TV.
It definitely did. Congratulations on your first podium of the season.
Thanks, Justin.
That's Kenny Kibbe. Started 15th, came home in 2nd position tonight. For Steven Spees, it was a 3rd place finish. That was the other half of the drag race. He's with Devin Henry.
Yeah, and Steven, another driver who ripped up through the field. But Steven, first and foremost, take me through that final battle between you and Kenny Kibbe. You guys were duking it out there in those final laps.
Yeah, you know, I've said it before, right? Most of my racing's on dirt, so I'm still figuring out some of this pavement stuff. But when we get off of those little tiny bull rings and get onto these things where you can keep a little more momentum, I tend to be better. I have a decent number of laps here, and you know, Kenny's way better at this pavement stuff than I am. So I knew he was coming. I saw him in my relative, and, you know, I was just concentrating. I wasn't worried about the spot. If he got around me, that's fine. I just didn't want to make a mistake and really put myself into trouble. So, you know, it was intense. You know, one little bobble coming off the final corner, and I think he got me by a couple thousandths of a second or something. But as far as I'm concerned, it's a win for me tonight.
Yeah, 1800ths, the final gap there between you and Kenny Kibbe. But hey, a podium position is great. And speaking of dirt racing, a lot of you guys look like you were dirt racing with how often the steering wheel was turned to the right, not just on corner exit, but throughout the corner. You started this race in 11th place, moved into the podium. Take me through driving through all those cars, but also being able to keep your tires under you and have the tires for the end of the race. How did you manage that?
To be honest, I don't really have any idea. I don't know what I'm doing out here. You know, I followed JR. I was behind JR for a good portion of the race fairly early, and just kind of tried to pick up his line and his braking points and see if I could learn something. I didn't try to be in a hurry. And, you know, I've hurt myself in a few of these races and burned my tires up pretty badly. So I'm trying to be more patient and just learn what we're doing out here. So, you know, patience is the key. It's hard to see a car in front of you, you know, a second and just have to wait and know that you'll start catching them once their tires wear. It's just a whole different mindset. But, you know, it was pretty fun tonight.
Well, it sure looked fun out there for a lot of you guys, maybe a little stressful as well, but who do you have to thank for bringing it home on the podium here at North Wilkesboro?
Yep. As always, thanks to Lowell for running the league, John Hine for adminning. Thanks to the sponsors, Cruise Shop and Motorsports Drop for making the broadcast possible. And always really enjoy watching the broadcast with GSRC. So great job you guys do.
Steven Spees takes it from 11th on to the podium. Steven, congrats on a great finish and best of luck the remainder of this year.
Thank you very much.
That's Steven Spees, your third place finisher. Justin Prince has caught up with tonight's victor, J.R. Shepard.
Yes, indeed, a very familiar name in these parts. You did it again, JR. Another win. How does it feel to win by more than 3+ seconds? This time, you didn't have to charge to the field to do it.
Yeah, that's probably why the 3 seconds was there. But most of the time, you don't have that kind of luxury to be able to take your time and start toward the front. But yeah, I love racing at North Wilkesboro. It's a great track. I wish it was still around in real life, but you know, it's a great thing to have it on here, and glad that we get to run it, because it's one of those tracks that is a real raw track. You have to watch what you're doing with your throttle inputs and your steering input, and you can wear the tires out quick just by doing something just a little bit different. So yeah, I love those types of tracks.
I was gonna say, were there any differences in how you drove this track from the last time the series was here compared to this time? And what was it, if you did drive different?
I tried to duplicate what we did last time here. This is one of those tracks that gives you a false sense of security, so you can really push the car pretty hard from the center off and think that you're running great, and then all of a sudden your tires are going in the rear. So the line that I was running, I noticed a lot of guys were following me and talking about it during their interviews. So I was trying to run a line just to take care of the tires, and it was actually slower. And I hope they kind of notice that and catch on a little bit. It sounds like they are, but that's all I was doing, was just trying to run a line close to the bottom that forced me not to get into the throttle as much as I really wanted to.
Now, one of the main things we talked about tonight, it was the Moonshine Challenge this evening, another race where every race from Martinsville and North Wilkesboro is for championship points for a separate championship. Congratulations, you won yet another title, because with the 10 points earned tonight, that makes Justin Morden out of reach to compete for the final race of that championship in 2020. How's it feel to win the Moonshine Challenge and add yet another virtual trophy to your cabinet from the BRL this year?
It's really cool, because I had forgotten about that. It's something cool that Lowell put on, and you know, as we get more and more of these unique tracks, I think he'll do more stuff like that. So it's gonna open up for to where you have a lot of people that have opportunities to do stuff. And I was just fortunate enough that these are tracks that kind of fit my driving style. So paid off, and yeah, it's really cool that he does that, and cool to be able to get the first one.
Indeed. Next race, Five Flags. Your thoughts on that race as you look to try and win yet again?
Yeah, Five Flags is not my favorite track. I think Kenny's extremely good there, so we'll see. And you know, I'm not even sure if I can run all the races this season, so we'll see how things play out. But I think Kenny's going to be the one you need to watch there.
Yeah, I was going to say, this year has no drop weeks, so that could be huge if you can't make all the races this year, JR.
Yeah, it's unfortunate, but it's the same for everybody. So it's one of the new rules, and we'll just see how it plays out.
Anyone you want to thank for the run tonight?
Yeah, big shout out to Lowell Jewell and John Hine for everything they do with the Bootleg Racing League, and glad to have the Cruise Shop on board on the car tonight, and also a thanks to the Motorsports Drop for co-sponsoring the Grand National cars this season. It's a lot of fun. Glad that we're able to do it and put on a good show. And hey, I also want to give a shout out to Kenny Kibbe tonight. He's my teammate at Western PA iRacing, and we ran the Bathurst 1000 today, and we're able to come home third. So been a long day, but it's been a lot of fun, man.
Our director saying a hell yes in our ears on that one. Congrats on that run, and congratulations on this dominant run tonight.
Hey, I appreciate you guys. Thank you for GSRC and everything that y'all do.
Thank you very much. This J.R. Shepard, your race winner tonight. I'd like to thank him, Kenny Kibbe, and Steven Spees for taking the time to speak with us during post-race coverage tonight. Devin, first things first, your final thoughts on the first race of this campaign, a different tone compared to the last time the series was here.
It really was, and you mentioned that at the top of the broadcast, and I knew it was going to be different, just from how these drivers evolve and being at this track for a second time after the experience that they had. But this was almost drastically different, and at the end of the race, having such a long run and still having so many tight battles for positions, that kind of just blew my mind. I mean, I completely forgot about the battle for 8th at the end of that race, and J.R. Shepard, classic number 98 cruise shop machine, just driving through, taking his time, being patient, and once he finally got to that lead, driving away from the rest of the field. And one last shout out to tonight's GSRC hard charger, Kenny Kibbe, taking home the virtual honors tonight. Man, a 15th to 2nd, and we saw him midway through the race around the top 10, around 10th place. So he made quite the trek up through the field. An exciting race to watch here at North Wilkesboro.
And he said it's his favorite track, and it's going to be a fun one, I think, to see how things fare out, because I think we're going to see a different tone compared to the last time we're at Five Flags as well, with drivers like him in the field.
Oh, absolutely. And you just look at the personality of these two short tracks, going from North Wilkesboro to Five Flags. Completely different personalities. Of course, if you race under the lights at Five Flags, it's completely different than here at North Wilkesboro. So, you know, it's another one of those where some drivers like Steven Spees doesn't necessarily like, because it is a little bit more bullring-like than a North Wilkesboro. But, yeah, completely different characteristics, and it's going to bring a completely different race. But they always manage to make these races exciting regardless of what short track they visit.
Indeed. It's going to be fun to see who comes away with the checker flag there, but I'd take the time to thank you for tuning in for tonight's exciting race from North Wilkesboro Speedway. I'd also like to thank the Bootleg Racing League for organizing what has been an exciting series throughout its history, as well as its title sponsors this season, once again in the Cruise Shop and Motorsports Draw. I'd like to take the time as well to thank the companies who provide the software and hardware for our broadcast listed up on screen. Special thanks to Jude Lalonde, who provides her wonderful music. See the screen for how to get a hold of more of her great work. Thanks to the team today, once again, in Devin and Sean. If you'd like to find out more about GSRC and the upcoming races, you can find it at Global SimRacing Channel.com. If you'd like to help support the channel, you can check out our merchandise for sale at gsrc.stormvy.com. Or you can check out our social media on Twitter at GSR Channel, Facebook at Global SimRacing Channel, and Instagram at GSRC_Graham. Don't forget to head over to our YouTube page and hit that big red subscribe button so you don't miss a moment here on the Global SimRacing Channel. As talked about, the next race on the calendar goes to Five Flags. That will be taking place this upcoming next weekend. Be sure to tune in. Coverage starts at approximately 8:45 p.m. Eastern Time. Green flag scheduled for 9 p.m. We also have upcoming races for other series listed up on your screen, so check those out and mark them down your calendar as well. Until next time, race clean, race hard. We'll see you on the track.